Good morning on this beautiful Friday. Where are you tuning in to the world from in the world? I would love to hear because I love connecting with you. Today's episode is, oh my gosh, I created a series or a theme, mantra, unmuted. And my podcast, we're going to just go to the nitty gritty about going from muted to unmuted and what that looks like. And today I'm talking about the hidden cost of hiding yourself at work, in your career, in your job. We all do it. I've done it. And so today, grab a pen and paper if you can, take some notes, and let's dive in. When we hide who we are at work, in our jobs, in our career, we don't just dim our light. We drain our energy. Our energy gets zapped when we hide ourselves. We turn into people that we might not even recognize. We start acclimating to our environment. We start becoming chameleons, salamanders, if you will, right? Are those the same animal? Anyway, chameleon, we start chameleonizing ourselves. We start wearing clothes that don't even fit us. We start speaking differently, and we show up in a way that we end up losing ourselves. We become so far gone in the performance and then in the pleasing that we end up zapping our confidence. And in a career environment, like in a job environment, I know for myself, there have been many times all I wanted was for people to see me as I am, to accept me as I am. And I think back to other jobs that I've been at. And it wasn't until I got this job that I had been at for over 6 years. And I remember, have you ever heard the statement that, or the phrase, you will keep repeating the same lesson over and over again until you confront it, until you address it, right? Until you find the lesson, you will keep repeating the same one. It will just happen in different environments with different faces. The same exact thing is going to happen until we do what it takes to find the lesson. And at this current job that I have been at, I have found many lessons that for decades, I'm talking the last 3 decades, I experienced, but I didn't realize that I was experiencing the lessons that I'm seeing now, because I'm realizing that everything has been happening in a similar format, just with different faces and in a different environment. And I have learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about people. And I also learned that I was hiding myself. I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to not be trashed, not be taught, not gossiped about, not talked about. I didn't want to be overlooked. I wanted my values to be seen so badly. And I did this mostly in my jobs. Have you ever heard the statement, coworkers are not your friends? Well, this goes in line with that. So if you're joining me, say hello in the comments. By the way that I love this podcast, I want to welcome you and say thank you so much for joining me today. The more that you interact, it brings energy. And so I reciprocate that energy back to you. So emojis, comments. Also, if you are joining me, if this is your first time, say hello. Welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we are talking about the cost of hiding ourselves in our jobs. Yes, I know. It goes in line with the unmuted series that I have been starting to talk about. So awesome. South America, welcome. So I started learning the lessons so that I could stop hiding myself, so I could stop remaining miserable. Also, too, in the interview chair, this is where I believe most people step into the art of performance that it hides who they are, masks themselves, all so they can please the person that's doing the interview so they can get the job. But what happens is in an interview, if you think about it, when you're sitting in an interview chair, it's a little terrifying. You feel like you're getting interrogated, right? But we end up going into performance to please the person because we might want the job so bad. But I learned how to not mute myself in an interview in a job, which I created a program. It's called Career Reclamation Blueprint, and it leads people to reclaim themselves and their identity when they're looking for work, before you sit in the interview chair, when you're in the interview chair, and what happens after the interview, and what happens when you get the job. And it's a beautiful thing because in the program, I give you scripts to reclaim the conversation so that you are interviewing the person that's interviewing you to see if that's a place that you really want to be at. Because in the interview, you're going to spot red flags that are spoken. Because, okay, first off, if any job says, hey, we're all like family here, not your job, we're not going to take that job, okay? Because what if your family are a boatload of crazy people? Just saying. What if they're psychos? I mean, do you want to work with people that resemble your psychos? No. Do you remember I started talking about how, have you ever heard the statement, your coworkers are not your friends? Okay. So many times at a job, when we go there, we're there every day, right? Maybe you work 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week, whatever. We're there all the time. It's like our second home. The only thing is we're not really paying rent to be there. We get paid to be there at our second home. Okay. But what I also have found in my own life is that because we want so badly to be accepted by everybody, we we then think everybody that we work with, our coworkers, are friends. But what if I told you that people that you work with right away cannot be a friend because they don't really know they don't know you. There are people, true story, case in point, coworker that I met, okay? And this is not like current stuff that's happening, okay? This is like a previous thing. Coworker that I met, I could sense there was some red flags going on in my gut when I met the person, and I didn't know why. Okay. We've seen the reels, right? Have you guys seen the reels where it says, hey, pay attention to that feeling that you get, that discernment when you meet the person that everybody likes? Pay attention to why you feel that way. You know, that feeling in your gut, like something's off with this person. Okay. So the person that I am is I try to, when I notice that there's an issue, I do my best to communicate ways on moving through that issue with the person first before I go to management, and I'm not going to take it to anybody else because it's nobody else's business about what the other person is doing, right? I don't need to gossip to my coworkers. So there was a situation there where I tried my best in the best way I knew how, way I felt safe, to remedy a situation that was happening. And after that, my life got flipped into an eggshell walking, dreadful 2-year interaction. I loathed walking into work. I dreaded it. Why? Because I had to face a person that didn't like me for absolutely no reason. I'm not kidding. And absolutely, no matter what I did, anyway, let's just say there was some stuff that happened that went down behind the scenes. I almost lost my job. This person went out of their way to make sure that my life was miserable in front of management, in front of coworkers. I understand that my social media was getting stalked. I also understand that there were some other things that I was being trash talked. You know, so when I say that coworkers are not your friends, use wisdom. Pay attention to the red flags that are going off, but also becoming unmuted. Staying muted in order to have closeness with people we call coworkers can also cause us to not stick up for other people that we know are being mistreated. Something that I found out that I had absolutely no idea at this particular place was that behind the scenes, I actually had other people that were coming to my defense because they had had enough. I didn't know this. I didn't ask for any of it. In fact, I was very quiet about it. The only people I told was my therapist, my coach, and my mentor. Well, they were the same similar people, but that was a tough, very tough year, 2023. So, but things have gotten a lot better. We have a different dynamic. Things have shifted, and I saw a lot of lessons. But I also learned that when I stay muted, I'm miserable. So I learned a lesson and I became unmuted whenever I go to my career, my job. And I learned how to speak up for myself. I also learned how to communicate. Thank goodness for ChatGPT, right, with emails, so that I can get responses and I can get heard without forcing myself to be heard. So when we dim our light, when we dim who we are at work, the longer we do it, the more our body, confidence, and spirit start to shut down. Now, let me tell you something. If you've been on my podcast and you've been listening, you can hear that my spirit is like ignited. Like I love coming on here. I love connecting with you. I love just talking. Talking is my thing. I think I was born with a microphone. Okay. Anyone else? A microphone or a megaphone? Like, yes, thank you, God. And also, right? I've had to learn how to steward this gift of speaking, right? Anyone else? And so, because I started muting myself because of what was happening, I noticed that my body did start shutting down. And guess what happened 3.5 years ago in my career? I ended up having a health crisis in 2022, April of 2022. I remember minding my own business, went to work at 8 a.m. By 9 a.m., before 9 a.m. hit, I had the biggest health scare I have ever had in my life. My body started what I call attacking itself. I was very dizzy. I couldn't breathe. I had shortness of breath, nauseous, rapid heart rate. And it wasn't anxiety. It wasn't caffeine related. It wasn't even stress, but I believe it was years of things, muting myself, learning things, stressful stuff, all the things that my body's like, we're done. We need you to pay attention to us. And also growing up in foster care, trauma, all the things, car accident, horrific car accident. So, lots of things happened. But I learned that I had a little heart to heart with myself. Okay, Tiffany, we can continue to stay muted, to be liked and palatable and water ourselves down for everybody. Or we can rise up, become unmuted, and not everyone's going to like you, but at least your body can start to heal, right? Life can be put back in your bones, and you will start magnetizing people who enjoy being around you because you are the unmuted, authentic self that also makes it safe for other people to be around you. So I went with the latter. And so I also muted myself to stay professional. I'm also a person of integrity. I'm not going to go around trashing people's names. I don't even say names unless somebody is harassing, bullying, or something along those lines. I don't say names of people. It's irrelevant in my, you know, but and so to be safe, I did have to keep myself safe, right? I had to keep myself safe in many environments growing up in foster care, physically, mentally, my life. I remember I was put in the foster care system before I was 1. By the time I was 10, I had suffered abuse of most every kind. Thank goodness, no sexual abuse. Thank God. But because I was angry and pissed off, they decided that I was troubled. The system did. So they put me in not 1, but 2 group homes. This is where I literally had to fight for my life to stay alive because I didn't know how to handle bullies. Second group home, they literally tried to off me off the face of the planet, take me out multiple times. Thank God, each time someone was there to help me stay safe. Thank God. That's all I'm going to say because I had to fight for my life. I look back and I'm like, I didn't deserve that. I wasn't mean to anybody. But when people see a quiet person that doesn't act like them, some people aren't going to like it, and they didn't. And these girls that lived there, well, let's just say it this way, they needed a really swift ass whooping. Okay? They really did. Like, come on. And if the person I am now, it's like, man, I just didn't know how to be unmuted back then. Haha, but I do now. So sometimes, as Medea would say, meet me in the parking lot at 5 o'clock, right? If you're not a Medea fan, go watch Diary of a Mad Black Woman. It's by, oh goodness, what is his name? Tyler Perry. Okay. Just watch that movie and then watch, there's another one, Family Reunion. And those are my two favorite movies. Tyler Perry created these based on his childhood and stuff. So some of these are like real life examples. I don't believe the actors are the real people that, did stuff, but that's where I got most of the stuff. So, okay, next. So when I was staying quiet to be safe, I noticed that my body and mind and soul were suffering. They really were. It was I look back now, this was within the last 3 years. Okay. No joke of what I shared. And I got to a point where it became hard in my life to walk through the doors to a place I had to go sit in the same environment where I knew someone was going out of their way to create a horrible experience. And it's not fun. But I learned the lessons, and I didn't take the blame. I didn't take the blame because I knew that whatever was happening had nothing to do with me. And it turns out that I was absolutely correct. But I found the lessons. And becoming unmuted actually helped me share the lessons with the very people that were also getting affected around me. And it is very interesting when you watch somebody grow right in front of you, and you just can't unsee it. So I could have turned into the Wicked Witch of the West, I could have turned into a baseball bat carrying chick, but that's not necessary. And I prefer to stay out of prison. Okay. The real cost of staying muted, of staying liked, of staying popular is burnout, self-betrayal, loss of creativity, and a collapse of our energy. Our nervous systems, have you heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score? Okay. Our nervous systems remember. Our nervous systems are the very thing that our nervous systems, if you think about it, they are the lifeline in our bodies. They know when it's being attacked, like it knows, right? But staying muted keeps us in that burnout. And I remember, I just felt exhausted and I felt fatigued. And when I started showing up as me, when I started speaking truthfully, and also, yes, life is tough for some. You come into this world only to experience pain and hurt, yes. And also that pain and hurt can be turned into something as beautiful as this to share with you. Hey, here's the foundation, and then here's what I'm building from that. Yes. Yes, that's a good thing. Thank you for sharing that. So our nervous systems are the foundation. Our bodies remember, but the more that we heal, the more that we become unmuted, it spills over into every area of our life. I don't operate the same way that I did 3 years ago. I just don't. I don't operate the same way that I did 1 year ago or 6 months ago, because I learned that staying muted almost costed me my life. No joke. I've been a vocal person. But I've learned, I had to learn how to communicate better. instead of coming off like a vigilante, right? who's in a war, I had to learn how to remember I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to bring change. And the only way I can do that is to say the thing that I really want to say. Plus, ChatGPT can definitely help you, or Claude, right? The AI tools definitely help you write an email that gets response where you're not sounding like a victim or a defensive person on steroids. And so, when we shrink ourselves in our career, when we shrink ourselves at work, it's not humility at all, right? I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. By the way, if you have a coffee cup, cheers, whatever you're drinking. It is self-abandonment. There's a scripture that comes to mind about how it talks about meek, being meek. And I believe that has been misquoted, misconstrued. It's something, it's like meekness doesn't mean taking abuse, right? Humility doesn't mean allowing ourselves to be the doormat or pieces of chewed up gum on the bottom of shoes. No, 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 no. Humility doesn't mean, it doesn't mean accepting things that's happening to you and believing that that's supposed to happen. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. I'm going to share something that might, I pray that this adds some more fire to you today. We are not responsible for what people choose to do. They are. We are only responsible for how we respond. Mm, mm. When I started practicing that, and I was staying unmuted with the thing about, the job situation, coworker situation, I learned very quickly, oh, well, this person, whatever this person is doing has nothing to do with me. Growing up in foster care, I blamed myself for the abuse that happened because I didn't know any better. Because I was told, well, basically that I deserved it. It's my fault. If I didn't do this, then this wouldn't have happened. And so it was blame, a lot of blame growing up. Blame for why my twin sister, older sister, and I were removed from our biological home because our parents decided that our birth parents decided that alcohol was their vice, was their life. My twin sister and I were one. We left by the time we were 1 year old. Older sister was almost 3. So, as you can tell, but there was a lot of unspoken blame placed on us based on birth parents' decisions. Now, excuse me, but I'm not responsible for that. I didn't deserve to grow up in foster care. I didn't deserve to grow up in homes that I was mistreated and abused and had to literally fight for my life. I didn't deserve that. But over the years, I thought I did. I believed I did. But now, ha 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 ha, no, 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 I don't believe it. I think that's BS, right? So we aren't responsible for what other people do or choose to do. We are responsible for how we respond. We are responsible for how we handle what's happening to us, not other people. Let them. By the way, you want another good book to read or listen to? Buy the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, because in that, it talks about let them. Now, I'm not saying allow it to happen, but we're not responsible for what people choose to do. I'm not saying allow yourself to be victimized and mistreated and abused. No. Definitely stick up for yourself, right? If you're in any abusive situations, do what you need to do to get yourself safe. I don't condone staying in abusive anything just to stay and whatever. No. Take care of yourself and hightail it out of there. If you're around a group of people that are abusive and what I've been talking about today, get yourself in a safe space. Okay? But also in the book, The Let Them Theory, it talks about let me. Haha, that's the part that we're missing, right? Let them act like asshats, but let me respond in a way that sets the tone and sets some boundaries, right? Let them go off and have a hangout at a barbecue without inviting you. Let you, have a peaceful time and enjoy your day by yourself. So anyway, I'm just sharing that as an example, but let them let you. Again, We are only responsible for what we do, how we respond. That's it. The moment I learned that, I became free. Let your haters and mockers become invisible to you. That's a whole nother conversation, but absolutely. Yes. You just keep going, right? Because I used to do this, I used to pay attention to what people were doing and I used to let it stop me. But then when I started realizing that, hey, dude, I'm not responsible for what you're doing at all. Like, you're having a bad day, I get it. You're responsible for, how you treat other people, but I'm responsible for how I show up and how I handle you, right? Handle the person, handle the people. I'm responsible for my actions because, like, if you think about it, if I were in a courtroom, I wouldn't be judged based on what the other person did. I would be judged based on what I did. How did I handle this? And again, it's not going to be perfect every single time, so give yourself grace. But know that the actions of others, you don't have to stay muted. A lot of people will do that. I'm not saying either that unmuted means to go gossip and trash talk people. I make that very clear because I don't condone gossip. I don't do gossip. I can't even stand when people start trying to bring me gossip because it's like, why are you sharing this with me? Nope, go to that person. You have a problem with that person, you go to them, okay? Don't bring me in the middle. Thank you. I'll listen if you have an issue, but let's leave off names and then you figure out what the next step is because I'm not going to sit here and, you know, let gossip come in of any kind. So to, excuse me, to wrap this up, if you're shrinking yourself at work, so remember, as I said, it's not humility. It is literally self-abandonment. We pay the price when we mute ourselves just to look popular, good, right? You can be friendly with people. You can I say hi to everyone. I don't care who they are, or I'll give a smile because sometimes I don't feel like talking. But then there's times I'm like, just give them a smile, acknowledge them, let them know that they're seen. And it literally changes environments. I had a coworker that recently she told me that she goes, Tiffany, I can tell that when you walk in, you change the environment. Like that's what people, should be doing. And I said, yeah, I agree. People need to walk in, assess their energy, change the environment because that that's like it's a great skill to have. Doesn't mean you have to like have coffee conversations with everyone. It just means that you're not going to do and be what everybody else is doing and being. You're set apart. You're no longer muted. You're going from muted to unmuted. And then you step into who you are and it's freeing and it's freeing for other people. And people won't be able to understand why they can feel comfortable around you. But you just know it's because you stopped messing around. You stopped hiding yourself. You stopped muting yourself to stay liked and palatable and the watered down version of you. So this is your invitation to speak up. It is your invitation to take up space. It is your invitation to deserve to be seen in the environment that you've earned. Yes, I can't explain it, but when we stay in an unmuted fashion energy, people will be happier to see you because they can trust that you are a safe person to be around because they know that you're not going to destroy their energy in 0 to 60 seconds with a lot of complaining, venting, and all the stuff. Being unmuted, what did I hear recently? We have a responsibility with how we, First Amendment, is it the First Amendment? Freedom of speech, okay? Freedom of speech. We all have freedom of speech, and well, in other countries, apparently your people are getting thrown in prison for ridiculous things of freedom of speech. But freedom of speech means we still have a responsibility and we are accountable for what we say with our freedom of speech. Okay, that's like facts. And for anyone who's listening from any other part of the world where this is happening to you, I am really sorry that that's going on, because I think that's a boatload of BS. Getting thrown in prison for putting, I don't know, what, picture of a walrus on your social media, or not agreeing with things like, oh, come on, like ridiculous. Anyway, I'm just using that as an example. And that's all I can really say on here, right? Okay. Just know I have your back and I think it's ridiculous. So it's not acceptable that freedom of speech is taken. That's anyway rude. Okay. So keep taking up the space, keep walking in, walk in the environment that you know that you like, that you've earned the right to be there, right? Walk in knowing that you are here to energetically shift the room. Be the person that people's eyes light up when they see you, not, oh no, run. They're going to ruin my day. They're going to talk about, things that are, have you ever talked to people then you feel like you have to take a shower because they're so negative? Please don't be that person. That's not what being unmuted is. Unmuted is coming back to yourself. It's coming back home to you. It's reclaiming your voice, reclaiming who you are, and you stop performing for approval so that you can stop operating in burnout. That's what being unmuted is. When I said that, my body was like, yes, girl. Goosebumps. Okay. So I actually created a reclamation room called Unmuted. Exactly just that. It is the reclamation room. And it is where we do this work together. Everything I talked about in here today, everything I shared with you are the things that I have embodied, and I live it. And when I talk to people, I am like, man, I see you, I hear you, and also let's go, right? Could you imagine if you had a team of people around you that also was walking in an unmuted reclamation? You can encourage each other, uplift each other. And sometimes it's not going to be in the actual environments that we walk into. Isn't that interesting? Some of the bestest friends I have had, or that I do actually have, I have met in other spaces. I have other best friends that I have met in person, met one person in person at a conference a few times. And then the other two I've met on the phone in other places, but not in person. Isn't that interesting? So, because most of the time, you're not going to find people that want to be unmuted. And it's not that they don't necessarily want it, it's that they just don't have the tools to do so. But also, it's not our responsibility to force people, right? When I'm like, but I'm the person that like has the duct tape running after people, like, wait, let me pummel you to the ground. I see you. Follow me. Let's go. And so I created, like I said, Unmuted, the reclamation room, and the work is done in there together. And so I am going to go ahead and share the link to that. But everything I talked about today is what we go to town with in that space. And it's where you reclaim who you are energetically, confidently. You reclaim your voice. You become unmuted. You also get celebrated for every little thing which raises your confidence, raises your energy. And on days where you just don't feel like doing anything, when you come into the reclamation room, you're going to be able to walk away feeling empowered. And it's very similar to what you're hearing in this podcast. It's exactly what I do in the reclamation room. It's just you get more of this in a potent manner. And I'm starting off with a 10 days experience. And so I will post the link here. Let me see. Let me actually do that while I'm talking. And so if what I've shared today resonates with you, if you enjoy hearing this, you're going to enjoy being in there. I'm going to put this here. I'll also put this in. There we go. Okay. Apparently it wants to give it another name, but oh well. It's the Unmuted Reclamation Room. And so there you go. There's the link if you're listening and if you desire to start walking in an unmuted, powerful manner. And so, because I'll end with this. I look at the world and I look at my environments and I look at like, man, how awesome would it be if more empowered people would just, know what I know? How cool would that be? Right? How different would the environment be? Right? Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll come back on with a new one. Oh, by the way, the Unmuted Reclamation Room experience begins on November 11. Yes. So if this is speaking to you,